Introducing the Bite Me Cannabis Club. The Bite Me Cannabis Club aims to be an inclusive online space for cannabis lovers. Whether you're simply curious about how cannabis can improve your life or you're fully seasoned, there's always more to learn. When you join the Bite Me Cannabis Club, you'll have access to like-minded people interested in cannabis, monthly workshops, live Q&As, recipes and recipe swaps, digital cookbooks, a fully functional chat feature, and a whole lot more. For a limited time, it's only $5 a month with a 30-day free trial so you can try it out and see if it's right for you. This isn't just another Facebook group or confusing Discord channel. I carefully chose a platform that offers a clear, uncluttered, and seamless community experience. See for yourself, join today, say hello. I can't wait to connect with you there. Join the Bite Me Cannabis Club today. Link in your podcast app. In this episode, I talk with Steve, CBD expert and owner of Hempjoi, to talk all things CBD. Welcome to Bite Me, the show about edibles where I help you take control of your high life. I'm your host, Marge. Thank you for being here, and I hope you get something out of this episode, whether it's for yourself or someone you care about. You know, I was recently contacted by somebody who had some questions about CBD for their parent, and they had a lot of thoughtful questions, and I was able to answer them. But it occurred to me that if you're into weed, a lot of people might just ask you because they assume that you know. And CBD is something a little bit different. We all grew up probably very familiar with THC, but CBD, it's becoming more mainstream, and more people are looking to it to help them solve a lot of personal health problems. And of course, why wouldn't they? But there are some things to know about CBD, and we cover some of those things in this episode. That's why I really wanted to have Steve on. So if you know somebody that has questions, this could be a great episode to share with them. Some of the questions that we go over: why CBD is becoming increasingly mainstream, what you need to watch out for, some of the common misconceptions, some of the most surprising things about CBD. We get into things like broad spectrum, full spectrum, distillate, how it works in the body. And we talk specifically about the little trick that Steve uses in his own store to encourage people to try CBD with very little risk. So we cover that and a whole lot more. I think you'll learn something from this one. And just keep in mind, when you're working with your infusions, you're creating your recipes, CBD dominant flower is a beautiful alternative to THC dominant flower. So you can use that, or concentrates, or anything that's primarily CBD in any of your edibles. So don't be afraid to try that as an alternative. And without further ado, enjoy this conversation with Steve all about CBD. All right. Today, I am joined by Steve from Hempjoi, and I'm really happy to have you here today on Bite Me, the show about edibles. And before we get started into all things about CBD, maybe you can tell me a bit about yourself and your company.
Well, I'm a CPA from way back. That was my first career. Did that for about 5 years. Got my accounting background. Then I went into the family scrap metal business for almost 30 years and sold that, moved to Florida. Really, at my age, it was pretty difficult to find a job. So my wife actually made the contact that helped us get into the CBD business.
Okay, so you really made a shift in careers then when you're going from scrap metal to CBD, like health and wellness products. Do you have a personal cannabis story that sort of gave you the leverage to get into that business?
Well, actually, my wife is a home health nurse, and down here in Florida, she was doing helping her patients that are somewhat well-to-do. And she went to one of them, and he was talking to his wealth manager, and the wealth manager was talking about CBD. And my son-in-law is in the massage therapy business, so she said, "Well, why can't we just put CBD in massage lotion?" So one thing went to another, and I made an investment with this guy, and we got started on a branding and made massage lotion that was pretty awesome, actually. But he wanted to open several stores, so it wasn't really happening. So I made the initial investment in the first store, and we had somewhat of a falling out. He was not really supporting me like I wanted him to be, and I had to buy my products from him. So I threw my investment away, kept the store open, sought out phenomenal products because I'm an accountant, I'm not a salesperson. So I wanted my products to do the talking. And I have really done that. And I pride myself in how good my products are. And we're in the Fort Myers area. We have a brick and mortar store, but we also have an online presence. And I do ship online quite a bit, 4 or 5 packages every day. Being the fact that so many of them are edibles that are gummies, and I'm here down in Florida, I have to pack them in thermal bags with ice packs, and I just have to make sure they get there in shape because they melt so easy.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And I think CBD and a massage lotion is a fantastic idea. And that sounds wonderful. It makes me want to go get a massage right now, actually.
Yeah, I'm
But
actually working with somebody down here in Naples to take my topical that we have 5,000 milligrams of CBD in, drop down a little bit, add some neat stuff to it, and start another massage product.
right. Perfect. Now, how do you personally use CBD yourself?
Oh, yeah. I've been taking gel caps for a while. I also do Delta 8 at night. I've been doing a Delta 8 25 milligram gummy every night for the last year. And I'm fortunate because I have no tolerance for it. It is still working like it did on day one. So
Perfect.
I love my Delta 8. And, this industry is getting a little bit about pushing the envelope. We
Hmm.
do sell Delta 9 gummies as well. They're not on my website because I think that I don't want to bring a lot of attention to that, but they are 15 milligrams. So
Hmm.
in order to make it the 0.3%, I've got 4,985 milligrams of something else. But
Right.
15 milligrams will definitely do it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So if
Now,
anybody
see,
would be interested in my Delta 9, I would take an order over the phone, but it's not on my website.
right. Fair enough. I'm making a note of that because I can add everything into the show notes. Oh, I
Oh,
lost you there
there we
for a
go.
second.
Hmm.
Now, CBD is becoming increasingly mainstream. You see it all over the place. There's like Facebook ads for it now and everything. Um, so I feel like sometimes the market's becoming really flooded with a lot of CBD products. Is there something in particular that you feel that people need to watch out for when they're looking for a good quality CBD product?
Well, I am very insistent, and I can't get it on everything, but I try to get full panel certificate of analysis. The first page of the COA that just tells you how much the cannabinoid is in there, to me, is not satisfactory. I want to see about pesticides, mycotoxins, heavy metals, and everything like that. So where it is available, I do get them. I will send product out myself to an independent lab and get them myself and pay for the test.
So
But
basically, it's looking out for the quality of the product.
absolutely,
Right.
you know what? My goal is not to injure or hurt somebody. If that would happen, I would feel horrible. I
Hmm.
mean, it's just not worth it.
Right. And it's interesting because I work in a dispensary up in Canada, and I've had a couple of people come in before and they'll bring me like a bottle of something they bought online. They probably saw it on a Facebook ad or something like that. And they'll be like, I want something like this. And when I look at the label, it's actually like hemp oil that you
Oh
might
yeah,
like hemp seeds or whatever.
hemp
And then they
seeds.
tell
Yeah,
me
it's a great
they,
antioxidant, but it has nothing,
right.
no
Yeah.
anti-inflammation properties.
Exactly. I'm like, you can buy this at the grocery store in liquid form. It's the same
Right.
thing. And then I'm always sad to hear that they paid exorbitant amounts of money for it as well. So you really do have to watch out for some of that stuff out there. Um, are there any misconceptions or common misconceptions about CBD that people have?
Well, when I opened the store a little over 2 years ago, people were still apprehensive because it's weed and there's a negative connotation to it. But I'll tell you, being down in Fort Myers, Florida, where I have a ton of senior citizens, we do a lot of events in gated communities and we give out samples, samples, and samples. You don't know how many times those people come into the store and say, I got a sample, I'd want to buy it.
Right. Because it
Yeah,
works, right?
it does. And we have a little different business model, especially in the store. We'll let you walk out with just samples. I don't have to sell you anything. I know that the product is that good, they're going to come back. And it
Right.
usually happens.
Right. Yeah. And I know that there's a lot of seniors. and not just seniors, but they're definitely a motivated group of people that really are using fewer pharmaceuticals because they can use CBD instead.
Right, absolutely. And we don't have the insurance that you guys do up in Canada.
Mhm.
So, it's a lot less expensive and a lot better than staying on Oxy or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. Now, what are some of the most surprising things about CBD that you've found over the last couple of years?
Well, just it's amazing that it works so well. And for how many years our government didn't allow us to take advantage of that. I mean, the anti-anxiety,
Hmm.
the anti-inflammation, if you have nausea, it's amazing. It's like a miracle drug. It's so many things it's capable of doing. It helps with seizures, um, Parkinson's. It's just amazing. But the reason it hasn't been FDA approved in this country, I'm a firm believer, is because Big Pharma is trying to put the kibosh on it until
Right.
eventually they own it all.
Right. Until they're able to buy
Right.
in and make
Right.
a profit from it. So you touched a little bit on anxiety, which I find I use CBD for that a lot. Anxiety or nervousness and stuff like that. Seizures, Parkinson's. What else do you find that it's useful for?
Well, topicals. I mean, sore muscles. We have
Hmm.
a roll on. It's a 1500 milligram nano emulsified roll on. I put it on my lower back. I've had 2 surgeries and it really gets me going in the morning. And then I have a topical that I put on my shoulder, neck, anywhere. It's just incredible what the stuff does.
Hmm.
And I'll give people samples at the store and they'll be like, my dad, 89 years old, when I opened the store, he thought I was selling snake oil, but he's come around and he's in an assisted living home and he has a bag of samples to give out to everybody. So it's
Right.
just really amazing how people have come around to the
Yeah,
whole product
absolutely.
line.
It's funny
And
you
we're
mentioned.
always looking for new products, but I have to be careful. I don't want to get anything that's going to be bad for somebody.
Hmm.
And you just don't know what you're buying. You have to be careful that your supplier is a good supplier.
Right. Topicals I'm glad you touched on that too, because I use those several times a week myself for a lot of that, lower back pain that I also suffer from sometimes. But it's such a low barrier to entry for people as well, because it's non-intoxicating. You don't have to worry that you're going to get too high or anything. And you don't need any special equipment to use it, like unlike,
Right.
consuming in certain ways. So definitely worth people looking into. Now, I think one of the things that confuses folks a lot when they're first starting to look into CBD is
Uh-oh.
that um, what the difference is between full spectrum, broad spectrum, and distillate. And maybe you can talk about that a little bit, just to clarify
Okay.
for people.
We carry a lot of full spectrum tinctures, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. That is the straight oil. Nothing's been done to it. We have tiny bit of THC, Delta 9, 0.3% in this country is all we're allowed to have. But it
Hmm.
has all the 120 or so cannabinoids in a very, very, very small portion of each. And there's an entourage effect when you have the little bit of Delta 9 THC with the other cannabinoids that make it effective. Now, I carry the broad spectrum for people that are worried about drug testing. Normally, broad spectrum is a little bit pricier because there's a lot more processing. They have to process it down to the distillate, which is just an isolate, just CBD. And then they have to add the cannabinoids back that they want to put in it. So, but at my store, I charge the same for both. Um, I don't sell the broad spectrum nearly as much because people want all the cannabinoid effect. I do not
Hmm.
sell any isolate at all. Um,
Okay.
it just, to me, it's just not worth it. You need some of the other cannabinoids. CBD is great, but I like to have CBG, a little bit of CBN, maybe some CBC, the other cannabinoids to help out. But in all honesty, full spectrum is the way to go.
So the difference then being that full spectrum, you have a little bit of the THC in there, and broad spectrum, they've pretty much removed everything in that tincture but the CBD.
And they've added back a few cannabinoids to make
Right.
it more of it's to differentiate it from being an isolate.
Right. But there's usually no THC in those ones.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
So
I
for
do
people that
know.
come in are worried about being drug tested, I'll tell them to try this.
Right. Maybe it's a good time to mention as well, because a lot of people, when I'm dealing with them in the dispensary, they see that number of like THC. And in our case too, we're selling a lot of CBD products that have the trace amounts of THC in them to help activate the CBD. And they're like, will this get me high? And they're really concerned about seeing that number on there. Can you talk a bit more about the purpose and the benefits of having the CBD, or sorry, the THC
Well,
in conjunction
THC
with the
is
CBD?
also another type of anti-inflammatory. It also affects, I think it binds directly to your CB1 receptors, which are in your brain. And that's where you get a little bit of the high. But when your dose is so low, it still has some impact. It just doesn't give you the high that a lot of people are worried about. Now, like I say, I have Delta 9 gummies where they've made it 0.3%, but it's still 15 milligrams, and you will feel that. But in
Mm-hmm.
a 0.3% tincture, it's really minuscule.
Right, right. So you're getting some of the benefits of the THC without the psychoactive effect or the
Correct.
intoxicating effect. Right. Now, when people are choosing a product, there's always things to consider, like the potency, and then there's the different product types and ratios. How do people go about choosing a product in the first place? They walk into your store and there's an array of things. How do you guide somebody in choosing
Well,
something?
we'll ask them, what are you trying to accomplish? What is the
Right.
problem? If they say, I have a lot of anxiety, I'll give them some samples of some Delta 8 gummies and I'll say, try these at night. We have indica and sativa. So we have the terpenes added to help you sleep and the terpenes added to really try and give you some energy. But I'll tell them I have little individually wrapped samples. I'll give them those and tell them to start with a half a gummy because they are 25 milligrams. So I'll give them and say, let's start with 12 and a half about an hour before bed. I also have small full spectrum tinctures that I give away for free. They have about 2.5 doses in them. And I have a little card printed out with directions on how to use them. So I'll say, use this during the day. Take it in the morning, leave it under your tongue for 45 to 60 seconds, see how it works for you. Sometimes you need to be on it several weeks to get the full benefit, but you know, so those are some of the products. We also have the topicals. If somebody comes in with some pain, they say, I have pain in my neck. I'll say, wait, we have two options here. I get out the roll on, I wipe down the roll on with an alcohol pad and say, try this. And then they'll try that. And then I'll also give them a sample of the topical lotion. So they have lots to try. Like I say, take these home, try them. I give them my card. Call me if you have any questions. Usually within a day or two, they come back in.
Right. So usually it's just a matter of experimentation, seeing which format's going to
Exactly.
work best for you.
Because I don't know. Everybody's different.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that totally makes sense, because CBD will work for some things for some people and not for others. I know in my personal experience, my husband is not a good sleeper, and for him, for whatever reason, CBD isn't that effective for that, which it's probably a bigger problem. But for me, it works fantastic. So it's just different
Has he tried
biologies.
the Delta 8 though, or the Delta 9? I mean, you guys have it there.
Yeah. He's tried a few different things. Sometimes he's a little reluctant to. I don't know why. Maybe because I push too much because I work in a dispensary. But yeah, he's tried a few different things. But sometimes I think consistency is also important when it comes to using some of these products, because if you're just using them sort of here and there, they're not as effective. Which maybe you can touch on that as well, is the concept of allowing CBD to build up in the system. Because I always understood it that when you're first using it, if you've never used it before, it's going to be more effective after you've been using it every day for about a week, especially when it comes to tinctures and gummies. Do you find that to be the case in your experience?
I find with oil that is more the case. I know we have a lot of water soluble products. I sell a seltzer that you definitely feel when you're drinking it. I also sell a water soluble powder that you mix with water. And my golfers, being down here in Florida, I have lots of golfers, and I'll tell them the response I've had is that you don't hold the club as tight and you have better focus. And I have people that try them. I'll give them away for free. They'll try them. They'll come back in and they'll buy them. So,
Right.
it's just the water soluble stuff. You definitely feel quicker than the oil. The
Mm-hmm.
oil needs to build up a little bit. Uh, CBD gummies, I'm not a big fan of because I'm not always sure you're going to feel them.
Mm-hmm.
My Delta 8 and I know you're going to feel those. But I do have some broad spectrum CBD gummies. I also have some CBD gummies with melatonin. So people that don't want the THC, these don't have THC in them. So I sell those. Also, people with autistic children buy them
Hmm.
because it really calms them down.
Right. Yeah, it would in conjunction with the melatonin. That's pretty
Right,
interesting.
right.
Um, so you find that the buildup of the CBD in the system is more important when it comes to the tinctures and the oils versus
I
the
think
other
so, yeah.
formats?
And,
Yeah.
you need to do that on a regular basis. And I
Right.
think it's definitely beneficial because anytime you avoid your stomach, you're going to get a better, the efficacy of it's going to be so much better than going through your digestive tract and losing some of it and what have you.
Right. And it's also going to take effect faster because, as we all
Right,
know, gummies can be upwards of an hour, sometimes longer to take
right.
effect, which means you just have to plan ahead a little more. But yeah, those tinctures are quite a bit faster. Now, I guess the other question I had was about the indica and sativa differentiation. Do you find that that makes a big difference, or is it more that it's the terpenes themselves that are added back in, or in the
Well, that's
product that
what
makes it?
that my lab that I work with in Orlando, they add terpenes in there in order to make it an indica and a sativa. I carry another
Right.
suppliers that doesn't have the added terpenes, but I carry them because they're very low sugar.
Hmm.
So for my diabetic people, I carry those. I tell them there's no terpenes in it, but Delta 8 in and of itself is going to make you a little bit chill. But they do add terpenes to make it indica, otherwise known as
Right.
indicouch,
Yeah.
and the sativa. That's how I tell everybody to remember. And then the sativa, I sell way more indica than I do sativa.
Yeah, and that makes sense for the purpose of, the different things people are using CBD for. Probably they're looking for those relaxing effects versus something that's going to
I mean, the
make them
amount
more
of people
energetic.
that have told me that have been on Ambien and have come off of Ambien and replaced it with this, much
Right.
better. You're
Right.
not going to go
Absolutely.
get in your car and drive around in the middle of the night on our gummies like you might on Ambien.
Right. Right. And of course, it's so much gentler on the body as well because we are pretty
Correct.
much designed to ingest the different cannabinoids. Do you have any advice on the trial and error phase to find how CBD is going to best work for you?
If you can find a store like mine that'll allow you to try different things, that's the best bet. I know dispensaries down here are not allowed to do that. Um, but our CBD stores, we that's a little bit of an advantage we have because everything is zero point 0.3 or less.
Hmm.
And I make sure my biggest thing is you must be over 21.
Right.
So,
Fair enough. Yeah.
I'm not going to sell, and I'm very leery of selling a THC product to somebody that is under 21. And still, when they buy it from me, I always tell them you need to start low and slow, microdose, see what
Yes.
works, and then
Yes.
make the adjustment at that point.
Right. That totally makes sense. That's why I often tell people too, if you can keep a little journal or something to track your
Hmm.
progress and see if notice those differences as you go along. Do you usually start people out as well in like a lower milligram CBD product and have them build up from there? Or do you start them with something
Well,
higher?
what we used to do until I got my little sample bottles, we would allow people to have a sample here at the store. We
Hmm.
have disposable droppers. I would take it out, usually out of my 3,000 milligram. I would give them enough. So if you give them too little, they're not going to feel it. And they're going to say, nah, it's not worth it.
Right.
So I always, the first dose, give them a little bit more and say, you may feel this. It may be, you'll definitely feel it because I'll give them about 75 milligrams
Right.
and they'll walk out and they'll come back and say that really worked. So, but now I give away the little bottles and they do it at home.
And how many milligrams are those bottles typically?
It's about 260 milligrams in a bottle.
For the whole bottle. So each dose
It's a
might
tiny
be
bottle. It's a little
right.
bottle. And,
Right.
it's shrink wrapped and everything. And then I made a little business card I hand out with it and say, these are the directions. Start with a half a dropper, see how it works. You might be able to get three out of it. So,
Okay. So it's still
you
pretty
know,
high dose too then.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you
Yeah.
like starting people up on the higher
Well, because
doses.
if they don't think it works, they're not
Hmm.
going to be interested in it. So if you
Right.
start really low, didn't
Yeah.
do anything. They're
Right.
going to, so at least they know if it really knocks their socks off and makes them sleepy or whatever, then we say just got to take a little less, but it
Hmm.
works.
Right. So you might start them out on a higher and then they can work their way back as
Right.
well, which is another
Exactly.
option. Okay. I like that. Um, what was I going to next? So can you talk a bit about the mechanism of how CBD works in the body?
It works with your receptors, CB1 receptors and CB2 receptors. I know that most of them attach to the receptors,
Hmm.
but I believe THC is one that actually binds directly to the receptor. That's why it's so much more intoxicating.
Hmm.
We all have an endocannabinoid system that's fairly newly discovered. And these phytocannabinoids work just like our own endocannabinoids. So even I have a pet tincture. I have a little 12-pound dog, and we'll take her into the store and she'll get a little hyper. We'll give her about 25 milligrams, which is more than she needs, and she'll be like chill.
Right.
So, your CB2 receptors are primarily throughout your body. CB1 is throughout your body, but primarily in your brain. So, it just depends on what cannabinoid targets what receptor.
And actually, it's something that I didn't even think to ask, probably because I don't have a pet at the moment, but do you find a lot of people coming in looking for
Oh,
CBD
yeah.
to help their pets? And
I
is there
have
any advice as far as that goes?
well, I have some snacks, some, biscuits and stuff. Still, they eat them. I don't think they work as well. I have a 600
Hmm.
milligram tincture, bacon flavored.
Oh, nice.
So I tell people don't squirt it on their food, just squirt it in their mouth.
Okay.
And, I have a chart based on weight I give people, but I always tell them the worst that happens if you give them too much is they'll just sleep,
Right. Which isn't
and it's
necessarily a
great
bad
for
thing.
arthritis as the dogs get older. So there's all
Hmm.
kinds of benefits. And my dog is our guinea pig.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
she really, when my wife gives her a little more than she should, she's out.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
it's also going to help her with arthritis down the road as she gets older. So,
Yeah. Now, do you have any good resources where people can learn more about CBD for themselves?
well, you can always check out my website. We have a blog, we have articles on it as well. But gosh, there's so much information out there. You Google CBD or whatever, there's just tons, a wealth of information out there. Leafly is a great resource. I'm listed on Leafly. Um, there's just so many, but I
Okay.
would say Leafly is a good way to start. It
Right.
has both
Okay.
the THC and the non THC. So,
Okay. I will definitely link to that. I just asked that question because, like I said, I've had so many people come into the dispensary and be like, I found this thing on the internet. And sometimes, you know, it's beautiful that you can just look things up and find the information that you're looking for, but that's only good if if the resource is actually accurate or,
it's funny.
above board.
One of my new products that I carry that is very much people really like it. Unfortunately, it's a little expensive, but it's called THCV. Are you familiar with it?
I have heard of that. Yes. Yeah.
Um, I can't make claims that it will help you lose weight, but I can tell you that it will cut your appetite.
Oh, really?
So that's how people. I have it. I get it from a company out of Hawaii, and I basically have a sign on the front of the door. Are you tired of eating too much? Want to, that kind of thing. And then it always prompts questions. And I tell them, I can't guarantee you it will you'll lose weight, but it makes common sense. If you don't eat, you're not going to gain any
Right.
weight. And
Yeah,
I've
of
got
course.
customers that are regulars on it now.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, some of the things they're finding with the different cannabinoids is absolutely fascinating. And I think we're just scratching the surface really on all this
Sure.
kind of research. So it's pretty exciting. Now, can you talk a bit more about the business? It's a family run business, as I understand, and
Correct.
perhaps where you're at right now, what your future plans are.
Well, we're in season down here in Florida. We have a lot of Canadians down here right now. I
I
missed
bet.
them last year. You guys weren't allowed to come down last year.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
January, February, March, and April were slammed, really busy, which is
It's been a
terrific.
very cold winter this year, so it makes sense that there's a lot of Canadians there.
And
Yeah.
we had a little bit of cold weather, but not
Yeah.
like I'm from Ohio,
No.
so
Right.
I know what the winters are like, so I don't miss them at all. But I'm trying to think what else. We're hoping. I would like to franchise. I think it's a unique business model. Not many people are doing the samples like we do, and we don't pressure anybody to buy. That's not our deal. The way I look at it is I'm providing a service. If I make some money, yay. If I go out of business, well, I gave it my best, 1-2. So franchising is potentially what I'd like to do. I know
Right.
Florida laws are pretty good at this point. So I think if I franchised, I'd like to franchise, in Florida. However, you don't know how many people ask me, do you have a store like this where I live? Do you have a store like this where I live? And I'm like, no.
Right.
But, and I know I don't want to be responsible for maintaining a bunch of stores. So if I could get the franchise and work that way, that's what I'm thinking of.
Oh, that's pretty exciting. And I really like that concept, like you said, of using the samples to let the product speak for themselves and see how they can help people. Because really, like you said, it's the product sells itself. And you're
And I
allowing
tell
people to,
people, I don't want you to spend $120 if it doesn't work for you.
right. Yeah.
I mean, that's just not right. I wouldn't want somebody to do that for me.
Right. Yeah,
So,
that's fantastic. I love it. So, on that note, Steve, that's it for today. I really appreciate your time and joining me and answering these questions all about CBD, because I get a lot of them and people are constantly looking for more information about CBD, and I really appreciate it. So, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.
you as well. Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed that episode and you got something out of it. Maybe you learned something new. I'll be linking to everything in the show notes as usual, and you'll even be able to find the chart on dosing CBD for your pets, because I know there's a lot of folks out there interested in how that can help their pets as well as themselves. And until next week, my friends, stay healthy and stay high.
Are you tired of trying edibles that are inconsistent in strength and flavor? Attempting to figure out your tolerance? Do you want to take control of your edibles experience and find the optimum combination of factors that results in the best outcome? If so, this edibles journal is perfect for you. The Bite Me Edibles Journal provides a convenient and organized way for you to track and record your edibles experience, whether it's homemade edibles or store-bought. It includes 48 fillable pages. It's sized 8.5 by 11 for plenty of writing space, includes information on calculating the potency of homemade edibles, and it was created by an edibles expert. Whether you're a seasoned edibles enthusiast or just starting out on your cannabis journey, the Bite Me Edibles Journal is an essential tool for anyone interested in enjoying their edibles to the fullest. Take control of your high life with this convenient and helpful resource. Add it to your Amazon cart today. Tap the link in the show notes.